Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast are of the presenters and the presenters only and do not represent the views, opinions, or strategies of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Please like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Please leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 103. And here we are, just a couple days out from Christmas Day. This should, final week of Christmas overtime coming up, though with the holiday in the middle. We'll see if anybody actually gets any overtime this week. Outside of that, how you doing, James? How was your week?
Heavy mail volume. Lots of packages. Did get assistance pretty much every single day on my route, which is surprising considering I'm hearing a lot of offices aren't letting the RCAs actually give help to the carriers. So it's refreshing to know that at least in my office, we are getting some assistance. Didn't make the truck one day this week, but made the truck every other time, which is actually also surprising considering mail volume has been normal overall, a little heavy some days, especially with box holders in the DPS, but that benefits the route evaluation overall, so I'm kind of okay with that. I do feel bad for the carriers that are just getting overly inundated with packages and mail too. I've heard some offices are getting slammed with mail now, and RCA should not be sitting at home. They should be helping these routes. Management should be allowed to work their routes, their offices the way they need to limit overtime, and they should be doing it throughout the year to help carriers and keep them at or below evaluation if they can help it. But other than that, it was pretty much a normal work week at the post office. How was your not to do list, Bill?
I accomplished everything that wasn't on the list, and it's the first week since retirement that I've done that. So I'm very proud of myself of not doing everything I wasn't supposed to do. I kudos to me. I've answered a lot of questions, people, and like James says, there shouldn't be an RCA sitting at home at this time of year, and yet the stories are just, too numerous to count that they're sitting home. And what type of management do you have that you're paying overtime, on table 1 and table 2 for regulars, and the subs are sitting home? It just doesn't make any business sense. You want to know why you lost $10.1 billion? Decisions like that. The fact of the matter that, you're doing these SD&Cs, which, just in my, the office that I'm out of, is costing them money because every route's a 48. And it just didn't make any sense whatsoever. So, a lot of crying, a lot of bitching, a lot of long hours out there. The cold weather is set in. Please be careful with your footing in the dark. You don't know what's iced over or not, just glazed. Oh, God. You still don't know where all the dogs are. Everybody, be safe out there, please. Other than that, just another wonderful weekend or week, assisting people, talking to people, and getting some things addressed across the board for our fellow members in our craft, not our union, but our craft as a whole. That's about it. How about you, Kristen? How was your week?
It wasn't too bad. Monday was pretty darn heavy. I worked about 11.68 hours on Monday. I didn't have assistance because, we didn't have anybody available for assistance on Monday. So, Tuesday, did I get assistance Tuesday? I don't think I did, but it was a little bit lighter of a day. And then Wednesday, I used my last annual leave day for the year. Wednesday, to go see my daughter's band concert for the makeup date from being snowed out the week before. So I made that trek over to Gaylord and went and attended her 8th grade band concert. So it was a good evening. Thursday, I got in with a note on my clipboard on my 4240. It says, leave 2 hours worth of packages for the new sub. Like 2 hours worth of packages. It was actually a fairly light day parcel wise. And I'm like, okay. And then I have the clerk saying, that skid over there is yours. There was 8 mattresses going to one house. I said, well, I guess the sub can take those. And I left a few more. And he's got a 95 right-hand drive Jeep Cherokee. So when I got back, and I saw him when I was on my last row delivering the last couple packages, and so he pulled in shortly after I did, and I said, did you get all 8 of those mattresses in the Cherokee? He's like, yeah. He goes, and everything else you left me too. And I'm thinking, wow, because there was a lot of their large box. Somebody ordered a gaming chair, and a few other smaller ones. I think I left like 26 for him total. It wasn't a lot, but it helped me out. I could close that divider door in the LLV and stay warm. So I did that. And Friday was not so bad. DPS was heavy on Friday, though. I had a WSS mailer in my DPS Friday, so that sucked. Plus, we got more snow Friday. I had 40 minutes of wait time Friday because when we came in, it was snowing bad. We'd gotten about, 4 or 5 inches the night before. So, and our plow company really sucks. Truck was running late anyways because of the weather. And when he finally pulled up about an hour later than he normally does, it took him another 45 minutes to actually get into the dock because it had not been cleared out. And so in that process, there was a clerk, a CCA, and the truck driver and the cleaning lady out there with shovels and the salt dispenser clearing it up for him to finally get the truck into the dock around 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then Amazon showed up even later than that. So I had no Amazon on Friday, which was fine. It actually wasn't a lot. So, I got done Friday and called it a day. And then yesterday was a fun time. I went and did my CPL class yesterday. And yes, we had an outdoor shooting range and it was 10 degrees outside. But we all had fun. I'm really thinking our flats have been super light all week. One of the days I pulled down into my DPS, I think it was Tuesday, Friday, and the rest of the week, I had like a half a tray of pull down. It was like, other than loose flats, we've had no pre-sorted flats in a little over 2 weeks. So
That's
imagine,
cool.
yeah, it is. So we'll see what tomorrow holds for us. Other than that, wasn't a bad week. Other than weather, sucked because
Right.
nothing had been cleared by the time I left when I left the office on Friday, and I guess the plow trucks were after I went through everything. But thankfully, it was powdery, so I didn't have any issues with being on the shoulder. Thank goodness. There was only 2 mailboxes I didn't risk. One was down, and the other one it looked really sketchy trying to pull in there, so I didn't do it. But that was it. 2 out of 800. I can't complain.
I always like the after the first full week in December, your flats, especially the pre-sorted bulk shit, just up and disappeared because
Yep.
they weren't getting anything else ordered, and
No, well, the Christmas ones have been delivered, so
yeah,
they
it's
pulled
not going to get
everything
there.
back.
It's not going to get from China to there in time. So
Ain't that the truth?
speaking of delays, oh my God, Palmetto's got 50 tractor trailers backloaded. Texas, they had a warehouse with almost 400 cages of parcels, and there was a little town in Iowa, 38 pallets sitting in the parking lot. for an 8-route office.
I guess they've been redirecting stuff out of Indianapolis and down in that area because of the backlog. And yeah, it's been crazy. I mean, and not even postal related. I know the FedEx ground hub there over in where I used to live. When I last heard, they were 70,000 packages behind. I guess trucks were lined up to get in down the street that it's on. And of course, that was my old mail route over there. But yeah, and they're bringing people up from downstate and whatnot to try and get it out. I've seen a lot of FedEx drivers on my side of the state driving rental vehicles too. So yeah, it's crazy.
Don't forget northern Alabama there. They have that one office that has 150 Gaylords of packages sitting in their parking lot.
Jeez.
They actually, the news reported it, and now the Postal Service finally went out and bought temporary tents to cover them because the packages were sitting out there getting rained on and everything.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so
They late dollar short.
Yeah,
I'm still waiting on them. I'm still waiting on them to put out a detail 30-day for a regular carrier to go down there and deliver that stuff. You know, get somebody to help them out.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, us people up here in the negative temperatures are going to turn around and go, "What? Northern Alabama? Let's go!"
Okay, sign me up. I could use some warm weather. Yes. I'm still trying to warm up after yesterday.
I'll go down as a heart.
There you go.
But you'll need your own vehicle, Bill.
No problem.
Just rent a van, right?
I'll just take my Kia Seltos down there and put a trailer on the back.
There you go. I'll take my Ranger and put a trailer behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put the cargo rack on my Jeep, and I'll get a little trailer for that too. Let's do it.
Look at it. 660, 30, 55. Even 30 is comfortable. I'd like 30.
Wasn't it
30's not too bad.
Wasn't it negative 25 in Gaylord this morning?
Negative 21. They set a new record for the day.
Yeah. So, speaking of cold, we'll go into cold-hearted. Oh, nice transition there.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it for about a week now on social media. Well, I have at least. I don't know about you guys, but city carriers have been talking about it for about 2 weeks now. The pod employees going around observing if you have an unattended running vehicle, not wearing a seatbelt, distracted driving, fingering the mail, headphones, earbuds, utilizing cell phone, eating while driving. Pod will immediately stop the vehicle, identify themselves. I wonder how they're going to stop the vehicle. They just step in front of the truck and go, "Stop!"
Do you want to explain what POD stands for?
I believe it to be Postmaster on Detail.
Personnel on Detail.
Personnel on Detail. Basically same thing. It's a manager on detail.
Yep.
And they're basically being paid to drive around and find these violations. In fact, I have actually seen an email from an MPU telling these pods that they are not to return to their office until they find a violation.
And what are they doing upon finding a violation?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
So they will ask the employee to shut off the vehicle, remove the key from the ignition, and wait for further instruction. Most likely, they'll tell the employee, "Give me the key." Pod will contact local office management and request immediate support. Once EAS arrives, Pod will provide all supporting notes, photos, and a statement to EAS. Pod will remain on site, oversee emergency placement procedure, and offer support where needed. Notify the carrier verbally that they are being emergency placed and driven back to the office. emergency placement letter obtained by local labor relations, email drafted outlining high-level overview with all supporting documentation to team lead, and team lead will review and escalate. And as a note on this little call to action they have, the employee's supervisor or manager must be the one to place an employee in emergency placement, not the pod. Employees being placed on emergency placement due to the 3 motor vehicle infractions are not permitted to continue operating vehicle. So that little extra note at the bottom there is how they're trying to protect themselves with this system they're doing. The biggest thing is the emergency placement. Now, we're not arguing safety here. Safety is our responsibility. We are responsible for our own safety. And yes, an unattended running vehicle is dangerous. Not wearing a seatbelt is dangerous. Distracted driving is dangerous. What we are arguing is the procedure that they are doing, which is exactly what the union should be arguing, is the procedure. They are trying to take away the choice of the local manager by having this pod tell them to put you on emergency placement. This pod is directing all the steps management is doing in this situation, so it is not following proper procedure. Would you guys agree?
I can see it that way.
I think it's more punitive than corrective, in my personal opinion. Emergency placement is quite harsh.
The problem I see with this, James, is that they're getting a directive that they can't return until they find a violation. Isn't that management benchmarking?
It is benchmarking for those managers. On top of that, it's basically they're terrorizing their own managers to find these violations, because if you don't find a violation, you're going to be doing this for the rest of your career, basically, because we won't return you to your office until you find a violation.
Yeah, it's bad enough they turn on the carriers. Now they're turning on their own management team. I mean,
All right. I'm gonna go over Article 16.5, which is emergency procedure. I am sure you were going to do that, James.
Exactly. You can read it and then go from there.
It says an employee may be immediately placed on an off-duty status without pay by the employer, but remains on the rolls where the allegation involves intoxication, use of drugs or alcohol, pilferage, or failure to observe safety rules and regulations, or in cases where retaining the employee on duty may result in damage to USPS property, loss of mail or funds, or where the employee may be injurious to self or others. The employee shall remain on the rolls, non-pay status, until disposition of the case has been had. If it is proposed to discharge the employee, the emergency action taken under this section may be made the subject of a separate grievance. That is 16.5 on emergency procedure.
Yeah. And the two key pieces that they're working on, which is also codified in the ELM, section 651.4, is fails to observe safety rules and regulations, and where the employee may cause damage to U.S. Postal Service property, or the employee may be injurious to self or others. That is what they're using for this procedure in these major penalties for minor infractions. And I understand there are people that are going to argue not wearing your seatbelt is a major safety issue, and I agree with you. But the other part of it is you have the review and concurrence. So the issue that I have here with that is in our discipline, you have to have a review and concurrence from a higher level. But what you have is the pod, who is a higher level manager than your manager in this situation and is ordering your manager to be punitive in nature by placing you in an off-duty, non-pay status, and then turning around and ordering your postmaster to run discipline on you for this after the fact. And there are some carriers that are going to be waiting until January for their pre-disciplinary interview over this emergency placement. I've spoken to a couple of managers about this, and they've said they have emergency placed carriers for this before, but usually it's 1 or 2 days, and they have to go through a training, a refresher course. Some of them have to redo driver's training, but they get them back on the rolls and working within a few days after the emergency placement. And you have these pods who are making it 2 weeks, 3 weeks before they get a chance to actually have their day in court in front of the manager that is issuing the discipline, which obviously can't be, because this pod's not going to come into this office to have the discussion with the carrier over this emergency placement and the PDI. So who's reviewing and concurring this? Obviously, 2 people who weren't actually there to witness it. They're just taking the statement from a third party.
Oh, what really bothers me about this is that discipline starts off with discipline is to be corrective in nature and not punitive. And they're going straight to punitive. And they're doing it at the worst time of year ever. So
Yep.
what is your mindset here? What's your end game plan in performing this bullshit? Oh God, I gotta find a term without saying too much. just this it's just absolute bullshit to be pulling it at this time of year when people are stressed out, tired, worked to the bone, and all you're doing is demoralizing the entire craft.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even another side to this. Why are we punishing the carrier? And you're looking at their past history of street observations that they're supposed to have with management. And if they passed every street observation before this, why aren't you doing corrective action against the manager? Because obviously, if the pod's catching them, it's a habit. So obviously, they should have been caught at a previous observation date. So what are we doing to these managers? Absolutely nothing, which is par for the course for management.
Well, James, you're overlooking the fact that would require management to get off their asses and go out in the street. And unless they're picking up lunch, that's just not in their forte.
Pretty much.
I've also heard a rumor, and this is just a rumor, that they are specifically targeting carriers. They're targeting specific carriers.
Both city and rural side, though.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard that some of them are the people that are outspoken. Some of them are people that have filed grievances that have gotten this. In fact, a carrier got followed for an hour and a half by a pod following the rules, but they were an outspoken. But that's just a rumor.
Yeah. It's, you never know. I mean,
Yeah.
It sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't miss it. I miss
I
my
don't blame you.
customers. I miss my customers, but I don't miss this shit.
Wouldn't that be, if you could prove it, let's say one of these carriers is one of those that's outspoken, educated, and does file grievances, and they are being followed by a pod, wouldn't that be a form of retaliation?
Yes, it would be.
Yep.
It would be a grievance, and you'd have to stop and ask the pod their name, get their name, so you could put it in the grievance as a retaliation grievance, and put it as that management chose to follow them. No, don't text the scanner and tell management you're being followed. Call 911.
Yes.
Call the police. Advise them that you are a mail carrier and that you are being followed on your mail route by a vehicle. Give them a description of the vehicle. Yeah, call the cops first.
Yeah.
Let the cops come out and deal with it, because they don't care if they're management or not. They're going to stop the car and do a thorough investigation for at least 15 minutes before they let them go.
And for added measure, say, I think they're porch pirates.
They may be waiting for me to deliver a parcel to steal it.
Yeah.
Or they may be trying to get my arrow key as soon as I get out of this truck.
I don't recognize this vehicle. I don't recognize the person driving it, and they have been following me for so many miles.
Or so many minutes,
Yep.
depending on your route. Yeah, they're following me turn by turn on my route.
Mm-hmm. So that means I shouldn't whip a donut at the end of the one cul-de-sac? Okay.
Again.
I mean, if it's slippery out there, there's not much you can do to help it.
Right. I mean, fresh snowfall, below 30 degrees, plows haven't come out yet, and
You need to keep momentum. You need to keep momentum to get through it.
yeah, exactly. Rear-wheel drive. What can you say? It happens.
Can you imagine 100,000 rural carriers, in the course of a month calling the police on suspicious vehicles?
That would be hilarious. Oh, add in the 200,000 city carriers too.
Yeah, that would probably put an end to that real quick.
Yeah, we do know our routes and when there's weird cars. We do.
Mm-hmm.
We know when there's things that are not right on our route and questionable.
Ooh.
There's my infamous running with the postal inspectors trying to get into my truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that guy still hates me.
You were protecting the sanctity of the mail. Hey.
Thank you very much.
Yep. So
He didn't identify himself. You throw him into the truck before you ask for it. Well, I'm proactive.
And I will say this, every carrier that listens to this podcast needs to follow the safety rules. Not even an earbud in your ear at this point. So if you want to have music in your vehicle, get a Bluetooth speaker. They can't complain.
Wouldn't that be great if they got a pod coming up and they're listening to this episode as we're talking about pods, and it is on a Bluetooth speaker, pretty, so they could hear it over the racks of the LLV, the noise those make. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that just be wonderful?
Oh.
I mean, I can understand it with the Bluetooth and all that stuff, but I do know that a lot of people, especially like city carriers and stuff, do their routes with one earbud in, listening to books on tape and things like that on their route that helps them stay focused on what they're doing and things. And the problem is that now you've turned something that was a benefit to help speed up carriers and turned it into a penalty to slow them down.
Oh, listener says there's a pod in their area who'll stop at a box and wait on you, introduce himself and wave his hand at his car and dictate exactly how long he'll be following you.
Wow, that's a good pod.
Damn.
That's a good pod.
Yeah, that's not covert.
Yeah, I'll follow you this long. Yeah, no covert activities there. Probably learned that from the city side. They actually have a no covert spying on carriers.
I had one too many cops called on them. Yeah.
And that's what you got to do. You know, I had an observation by my 204B on my route, and of course, I had a spot where I had to do a U-turn, and I stopped the truck, and I went over my shoulder out the window like this, pull in here at the driveway before the driveway where I turn around, so that way they wouldn't be blocking my way as I come back the other way.
Oh, I remember having an observation by a former postmaster who parked in a driveway, and I just actually had a package for that house, and I did not recognize the postmaster's car, thinking it was the resident, and walked up to her with the package.
Well, what gets me, especially like for city carriers on, walking routes, okay? You're listening to music, you're listening to books on tape, whatever. I mean, those are the kinds of things that help your mental stability. Mm-hmm. And especially this time of year with the cold and the snow and, traipsing across, people's, lawns to get to the next door. Whereas you take those things away from the people, and what are they thinking about? How miserable this fucking job is, how much I hate doing this in the wintertime, how suck-ass the management is. And that's just going to foster more anxiety in that carrier. I mean, what's wrong
not
with
only
a little relief?
Thinking about work, they could be thinking about how far behind their bills are, or what they have left to get for kids for Christmas that they may or may not be able to afford, or how they're
stressing out. Yeah,
exactly. Whereas they're focused on something else. They got something positive going to keep their mind off the negative stuff, to keep them going throughout the day. I mean, that can go for people on mounted routes listening to stuff too.
Correct.
I get the safety issue, I really do. But, it's, you got to have, sometimes you need that other stimuli to keep yourself going throughout the day.
It really, it's the distractions in life that keep you sane.
Yes.
Yes, I said that.
But it's true.
It is. It really is. I mean, nothing like playing Stairway to Heaven at the top of the volume. That's me. We did have one carrier. He was written up years ago when we had our POVs. He had outside speakers mounted up on his vehicle, playing Christmas music. And not everybody's a Christmas person, so he had several people call up and complain about it.
That's funny.
Scrooges. What Scrooge is calling in complaining about Christmas music?
Mm. Yep.
But that's the biggest thing is, it's not about carrier safety that they're doing this. If it was, they'd be doing a lot more to protect us, like new vehicles, better vehicles.
Only 93 have been delivered so far.
Better Christmas assistance to get us off the roads faster. Get us off the roads before dark, before 10 p.m., before 8 p.m. Protecting the carriers from hostile management. But no, this is something else, and I understand a lot of people are defending it. A lot of people are defending them putting these carriers on emergency placement. But the thing about it is how they are doing it. Again, the procedure is the most important aspect of this. It's not what they're doing. It's how they're going about doing it. You want to know what would actually be a better use of these pods? Putting them in a truck and delivering the mail.
Or even running packages.
Either or. I don't care. They need to get down here to our level and support us. Hell, I think some people should actually be out there, doing the mail without being a manager anymore. Some of them don't deserve to be a manager the way they treat people.
Oh, that's why they're there, James. They're not worried about it. I mean, this smacks of that email that we talked about, where management was being told that you have so many PDIs a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What? So you're going to create a hostile work situation because management now has a benchmark to meet on PDIs?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, really,
Yeah.
this is the same type of mentality.
I honestly say that the post office could run with a quarter of the management that it has, and probably run more efficiently.
I can't argue that one.
Well, you saw where the interview with DeJoy was trying to explain how they're in debt, since he took over, and he's trying to straighten things out. But yet they've hired 190,000 more people.
To what craft? Oh yeah, management.
Management.
It's funny. I hear those numbers, and I'm looking at, okay, if you hired 100,000 people, that would mean that one of the crafts grew 100,000 people. But yet none of the crafts are reporting close to that. And even if you add in the numbers that they've hired into each of the crafts, it still doesn't equal that number, which tells me they're hiring managers right off the street.
And out of those 190,000, how many of them last more than a month?
Well, if they're on the
Or
craft,
6 months?
maybe 30% at most for all crafts across the board. And that's the first month. The numbers go down even further 2-3 months down the line. And a lot of that has to do with hostile management, poor scheduling, lack of pay, and all the normal issues that people have when it comes to these kinds of jobs. But the biggest number one issue is treatment. Hostile work environment.
Amen.
Ain't
So,
that the truth?
We're coming up on what should be the heaviest week of the Christmas period for parcel delivery. I saw some ads saying that, if you order now, you'll get it by Christmas. Some of those will be coming the day after Christmas. So
I've seen more complaints about FedEx lately than I have anybody else, and not just in my area.
My area too.
Yeah.
Got a trailer park where they're dropping them in one spot for everybody to come and collect, and it's not the postal service.
Oh yeah, misdelivering everything else. I've seen pictures on my local Facebook groups of whose door is this? Anybody recognize this? This is my package, and I don't know where it was dropped, but it wasn't my house.
We had one in our area where it was like 150 packages. Because 150 people commented they got the same signature on the packages for delivery, and it was 150 parcels, and nobody could figure out where they were delivered to. And finally, FedEx figured out that the guy that delivered them took them back to the facility after he signed for all 150 of them because he was done for the day and went home. But he said they were delivered.
I did have a good laugh when the FedEx driver said, I had over 180 packages today. And I just started laughing. I was like, yeah, okay, wuss.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've been up beyond that myself on my route, and I'm averaged at 80. So
I had 297 on Monday and 178 on Tuesday, 146 on Thursday,
I've seen
Friday.
I've seen pictures on Facebook of people at the end of their day where they're almost at $1,000 packages.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't even have Amazon Friday, and I still had 120.
Yeah, it's bad out there, folks, and it's going to get rough. It's going to be hard. We're all going to be working our tails off. But we're going to get through it because that's what we do because we care for our customers.
Absolutely.
And that's the most important aspect. It doesn't matter what management does. It doesn't matter what volume we have. We're here for our customers. And just like that, we're here for you guys. Us here on the podcast are here for you too. If you need to vent, get a hold of us. We're here.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't talk to Bill. He'll egg you on.
Oh, God.
But yeah.
It's like April Saturday. She just sent me a picture of her scanner. She had 402 packages, 402 scans. And I said, well, how many were Spurs? And she goes, oh, I had 16 trays of Spurs. I said, well, how many fit in the mailbox? And she goes, 4 trays. I'm like, okay, you had a rough ass day then.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ. Because because a lot of this stuff is in the boxes that just they're not fitting in mailboxes unless they're oversized. She has no CBUs at all, so everything's going to the door. She's had one guy. He's gotten the package like every other day, and every time he sees her, he gives her another tip. And she just reminded she goes, "You already given me 2 tips this year." And he goes, "Well, when I see you again, I'll give you another one." And she goes, okay, you don't have to. But I said, "Hey, take it. Just be grateful."
Exactly. That's how you can be. We do have those customers that really do love us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we do this job, is to serve those people. Yeah.
I said earlier, I was on, I got a forward from the Nextdoor app, which is a local community app in this area. And, somebody said something about, the sub really sucks, didn't pick up the parcels that they were supposed to. And this guy, he makes shipments like at least twice a week. And she goes, "Oh, I really miss Bill and everything." And I went back to April. I said, God, I feel bad for my customers, She goes, well, the thing of it is that, he's just a bad carrier. And, you treated them like they were family. Well, they are. I mean, They really are part of your family.
And I did that even as a sub. It didn't matter what route I was running. I got to know everybody that I could on those routes.
Yeah.
That's what you do. I'll have one of the other regulars in my office. I ran his route quite a bit. And, when somebody passes away or moves or something, "Hey, did you hear about so-and-so?" And I'd be like, "Oh, no." Or I had one that forwarded off his route onto mine. I said, "Hey, what's going on with these guys?" He's like, "I don't know." He goes, "Just one day they were gone and the house was for sale." I said, "Well, they're living over on my route now." It's because I recognized the name before I even saw where they forwarded in from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Carol brought up the point that this year I haven't had cases of chew bones delivered at the house for my Christmas dogs.
Right.
Because I'd get about 200 of them, anywhere from the baseball bat size for the Pyrenees, down to the little sticks for the Chihuahuas. But they all got their Christmas bones.
Yeah.
And nobody had to ask where they came from. They knew Bill did it. I even got a mention from this lady, Jessica. She doesn't even live on my route. She lives in these townhomes. And there's a common walkway over to my main street there. And they would always walk their dog Lacey over there. And Lacey is this big old collie type dog. And she would just lay down as soon as she saw the truck. She wouldn't move until I got up to her. And it's like funny as hell. In the middle of the street, she would lay down, and they have to drag her out of the damn street. Bill's coming! Bill's coming!
Well, it's like in pre-show, I was talking about the one the little dog I got on my route who, when when the average time for coming around comes, she's right there at that door just waiting for that truck to pull in. And as soon as she hears the LLV door swing open, because it's my hardship, and she's all prancing at the door waiting to go out to greet me. And then if she misses me, like if they got doctor's appointments or run to the store or something, and she doesn't get to see me, man, she's pouting the rest of the day, they tell me.
Isn't that the best feeling, though? I mean,
It
really.
is. And so I
Yeah.
know when it's been a few days and I haven't seen her and bent down to pet her and whatnot, I'll scoop her up and pick her up and give her all sorts of lovin's and then put her down. And she knows when I say, all right, time to go back to work, she goes right to the door like, okay, let me back in. I got my lovin's.
Did I go back to work and only sub on my route?
Sometimes I do miss being an RCA, and then that thought goes away really quickly.
Well, yeah, it's funny because I kept my case immaculate, kept the names, the
Mhm.
change of names, everything up to date. Had a label printer. You didn't have to read my handwriting, and there's no whiteout all over the place. It was just it was a piece of cake to train people on too, and just missing the people is I guess the most wrenching experience of retiring because of the fact that the kids, the dogs. I mean, little kid out there selling a bottle of warm water for $2. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, give me two. Okay. The little girl that sold me lemonade for $5. All I had was a 20. She goes, "Well, I'll give you change tomorrow." I never saw that change again.
But you knew you wouldn't, so you know.
Well, no, I expected it, but her grandmother lives next door, and said, "I'll guarantee you, her mother took that money off of her." I'm like, "Oh,
Right?
damn! You didn't raise a good
Uh,
daughter." She goes, "I know, Bill. I know. That's why I have everything sent over here." But where's the baby?
Where's the baby, Ruby? Sleeping.
That's no excuse.
He's been out for the past.
So-
That's no.
I ain't waking him up just for you.
Oh, excuse the hell out of us.
I mean, you are, but I ain't waking him up just for you.
Did
All
she
right,
start
James.
yet? Did
What
she
was
start
that?
yet?
No, she has to reapply
Oh,
Why?
because district is stupid, and Naki said she didn't reply to the last correction. In fact, we did. We even called USPSI or USPIS or whatever the hell it is. And they told us to email district directly with the explanation, in which we did. We never heard anything. And as of December 3rd, they had flagged it as a fail to reply and kicked it out and told her she could reapply after 30 days. Postmaster, the postmaster did send the email on again to whoever her contact was and has yet to hear anything as well.
And they wonder why they have a problem hiring.
Exactly. So she's waiting for her start date with Burger King for now. Mm-hmm. And that pays $13.50 an hour.
Jesus.
I know.
So she basically got screwed over because somebody didn't check their email.
Pretty much.
Wow, with as many emails as they send back and forth, you'd think they would have seen it.
Yeah, I know. So that's where we're sitting with that.
Wow. So did you guys have a chance to watch Maston's wonderful video he made?
I did once.
What did you guys think of it?
It was a waste of 5 minutes of my life. He really didn't tell us anything. He's still using my ending line incorrectly, I might say. And basically, I mean, he's trying to put off that they're fighting for us. But do you see that? I mean, we haven't got any real contractual updates. So where's the fight? I mean, what are you fighting for? Because you haven't explained that to us either. Yeah, you said things about the pay tables and all a while ago, but what are the points that you're hung up on now that you're not in final negotiations?
Mhm.
I think the biggest reason he's holding off on all of this is because of the city carriers, and he doesn't want to put a contract together that benefits us in a lot of ways or hurts us in a lot of ways unless city side votes theirs down. And I think that's what he's waiting on. If city votes theirs down, one of two things is going to happen. He's either going to wait for them to go to arbitration or he's going to present something very similar to us. And either way, it doesn't matter because what he's going to present is not going to be enough. With DeJoy going on record in both the Senate and the House talking about how 20% inflation has hurt the Postal Service and our carriers are not getting 20% inflation increases in their pay, obviously there's some disparity there.
Well, management's getting the raises, not us.
Yeah, management got 20% or 21%, something like that. Is that what you heard too?
I don't remember what I heard exactly, but I know management gets raises, but, screw the people actually doing the hard work.
Again.
And he's not just stealing your lines, Bill.
But
he's stealing a lot of ours.
No.
Yeah. As we head into the new year, let's continue to stand together.
Yes,
not
I
just
heard
for
that.
ourselves, but for each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
He's listening. He's listening to us. Hi. Feel free to give me a call and we can discuss this. I mean, I know you don't like talking to me at conventions, but that's okay. But
how's your overburden route doing, Don?
Yeah,
the one you never seen.
Yeah, the 3 subs that you have there.
I'm sorry.
And then you have you literally have no good information coming in this. Yes, he's trying to say he hasn't forgotten what it's like to be a rural carrier. But you've been up there on the national board since 2008. You started off as an executive committeeman, then moved up to vice president, then moved to president. And what do you have to show for that? At least give us something that we can hang our hat on in these videos. And you give us lip service.
I mean, I'll give credit where credit's due of at least putting videos out on a somewhat routine, but I do wish, I'll give credit for attempting to reach out. I'll do that, but I still wish there was something a little bit more meat and potatoes that us as carriers on the ground level had something to work with, or something to possibly look forward to, or just something that could answer some of our questions or some of our concerns.
The other thing that bothers me is the lack of empathy that he displays, the lack of emotion. Okay, when I sign off and I say, make sure you get home to your loved ones, you're the most important delivery of the day. It sounds like I mean it because I do. He does it just out of rote reading off of a damn placard. There's no emotional attachment. There's no real care or concern being expressed by him. It's just saying something, plagiarizing my sign off. James's comment about we're all in this together. I just it's so plastic. It's annoying.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. When I saw that he posted a video update, my first thought was, hey, maybe we're going to finally get answers as to why the union signed this MOU. Maybe we were going to get answers on why carriers are getting their pay cut again. But nope. We get a lip service on how hard it is to be a rural carrier. We get a lip service on I'm still negotiating. And we get a lip service of us being all together.
I mean, we
This is
do
not-
all need to stand together. I understand that.
Mhm.
But I mean, literally, I mean, there are so many concerns that carriers have today. As in, we all know, if they're not personally, they have friends or other people, they're in all the social media groups. They hear about and they see what concerns and the things that carriers are bitching about and carriers are questioning about. Why can't we put some of that stuff at ease by addressing it on these videos?
Amen.
You know, there's enough issues going on that you could have a weekly video or a weekly social media post just on what's going on with management and the union and stuff like that. Give us updates, you know, but no, it's once a month and it's a lip service once a month. You know, maybe he's still getting his footing and figuring out how to present to the craft on a video. But
Well, he could have addressed the PODs right now.
mm-hmm. He could have. He could have.
Nothing mentioned at all.
No, and like I said, this is it's 100% a problem procedurally, not safety related. Because safety is number one for us. We are our own safety advocate, not management. Management's not doing this to be a safety advocate for you. So why isn't our union saying something about how this is being procedurally done?
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest question we have to ask.
You know, and even just a heads up to say, hey, we are aware there are PODs out there. Make sure that you're following all the safety guidelines that you're required to follow. I mean, just something of that nature to say, heads up, we know this is going on. Just make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing while you're out on the street.
And contact your designated union representative if anything happens.
Yep.
That would have been a great video.
Honestly, it would have been.
Mm-hmm. It would have been great. It would have fit that in the middle of that video where you're talking about the contract negotiations that you have, and step into the pods being out there on the street, and then step into we care about you, we're standing with you. If you need anything, contact us. Would have made a great video.
Yeah. I mean, something of that nature. I understand contractual negotiations, that gray area of some things that cannot be talked about, especially if you're still negotiating certain things. But hey, you know, some sort of heads up on stuff, or just to say, yes, we are aware of these situations. We are looking into them. We are talking to management about this, that type of stuff. I think that is the type of things that the craft wants to hear from when being addressed by the national board.
Exactly. They pay these dues for a reason, and that's for information from national going on what's going on nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
We pay them to tell us what's going on up there. We pay them to represent us. We pay them to fight for our pay.
Yeah,
We pay them too much. Oh, I'm sorry.
For what they do, for what they're doing to us, I would agree with you on that. For what they're doing to us, taking our money out of our pockets.
Ain't that the truth?
But you put somebody in there that's worth the money to fight for you, you know, put them in there to fight for you. Get somebody in there that's actually willing to put their foot down and tell management, that's enough. We've had enough. Our union is tired of being treated like a doormat by management, by pods, by everybody above local management in a lot of cases. We're not the redheaded stepchild. We're rural carriers.
Yeah, some of us don't even have a lot of hair.
My red's diminishing. I gotta cover the gray again here.
Don't have to have hair when you're fighting for the craft. In fact, it gets in the way when it's flinging around in front of your face.
Well, that's why I have it pulled back in a ponytail.
Yeah, my son was over to me over here today. And he's going, Dad. He says, "You got to shave." He says, I don't like you with hair. I said, that's all right. I said, I don't like you, period.
Aww.
Because I love them. I love my boys. They're better children than I deserve.
So somebody said, I'm sure they take a poll from their local social circle to know the important issues. Yeah, that's the problem. That's why they have comments turned off on Facebook. That's why their page is not getting spread as quickly as others out there, because they don't listen to the craft. They don't want to hear from the craft. In fact, that's why they do a written Q&A at the conferences, is because they want to be able to pick and choose which questions they answer.
That is a little bit discerning that, you can't stand up and just ask the question. They have to be able to prep the questions and answers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's almost like being rigged.
I'm going to throw this out there. I go to my local boosters, and they have a Q&A with the district representatives and assistant district representatives. You can write your questions down, but they'll take questions straight from the floor. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they want the craft informed. And I understand that a lot of the national board doesn't want to hear from the craft on the floor, especially at things like national convention where it's actually on the record. But that's where you learn all the issues going on. That's where you learn from the craft what's happening in the union. Aside from them calling your office, or in most cases, getting the voicemail of your secretary because nobody wants to answer the phone at national office. But you've got to have an ear to the craft, and not just the people you choose to listen to. You got to listen to them all. Because those people are out there begging for your help, looking for guidance from the union. And you've got to be there for them. That's what you're paid to do. And it doesn't matter if it's 7 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, whatever. You're paid to support the craft. And that's what you should be doing.
Is there anything else we want to discuss tonight?
That's all I really had on the list. Bill said he took a short break.
Yep. I saw that.
I'm back.
Do we feel better?
Got back in your comfy chair, huh?
Baby.
Yeah.
Let me tell you that.
Somebody asked, can we make a resolution for that? And they were replied, I think there were some about being more transparent. Would have to check the resolutions to be sure. So, yeah, there were resolutions about being more transparent, and there's been several of them. And they always end up in the non-binding section of the resolutions, which means they're advisory in nature, and the National Board does not have to listen to them. They can take them under advisement.
Take them under the table is more like it.
No, he takes 20 to 30, but closer to 20 resolutions to the table. The
Yeah.
rest of them go in the circular filing bin.
Hey, I'd take every one of them. Every one that we
Yeah.
could argue, I'd take every one of them.
That's the point. These resolutions were passed by the body to be cataloged and organized and taken for our contract negotiations. And I understand there are repeats, but here's the thing. At last national convention, there were 4 resolutions about making RCA's career. What you do is you take those 4. You start with the best of them and work your way through the rest of them. If management won't agree to the first one, well, you throw down the second best. If management doesn't agree to the second one, you throw down the third best. You fight for every single inch you can get because management will take a mile from you.
Yeah, one listener says,
Right.
why pay for and have a convention if you're just going to ignore our input?
Because that's who's in the presidency right now. 20 to 30 of the 400 plus resolutions passed in 3 years are the ones that he was taking to the negotiating table.
But it hasn't
be,
just, yeah, but it hasn't been just Don. That's been their standard practice.
yes.
You have
And
to go
it's
back
time to
through the
change that
history.
practice.
Yeah.
It's time to change that practice. We need more active carriers as delegates. And if you feel that it's just you're going there to visit friends, it's not the place for you. You are fighting for this craft because this craft needs strength put into it. It needs power put behind it. It needs unity across the entire craft. And we need delegates.
That's the one thing. When I go to conventions, yes, it's great to see my friends from other places, but that's not why I go. I go for the business. I go to, go through the resolutions. I've submitted resolutions that have gone up to national and passed at national. That I am there for the business part. Even with this podcast, I'm not there to advertise the podcast. I am there for union business. Now, if we're off the convention floor and somebody mentions, oh, I recognize your voice, blah, 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 and I have a button or a magnet or something like that, I have no problem saying, oh, well, thank you, here you go. But none of that's done on the convention floor. To me, the convention floor is the place of business, and that's what I am there for, is the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
it's funny, James, we go into the convention with all these resolutions that the states have passed, and they come up to the national convention and they have a resolution committee overlook everything. And it's disheartening that you pass so many and so few get considered. It's just another form of them controlling the narrative. The same way at certain levels that the states do, in depending on, where their loyalties lie. But the fact of the matter is, you file a grievance and, you have a, lackadaisical steward or, an ADR, DR doesn't get back to you. Or this is what the demoralizing effect is that you keep beating the people down because no matter how much effort they put into it, it's not considered essential. It's not considered necessary for their consideration. It's not worthy of their time. Well, I hate to tell you, but you're on my dime, you bastards. So you better make it a preferential treatment for my resolution that the state passed, that your resolution committee passed, whether they recommended or not recommended it, but all of them should be considered.
The biggest pet peeve I have, and this is coming straight from Don Maston again, was when he re-upped the MOU, he turned around and said, and regular rural carriers can work to earn as much money as they want to cover whatever they need. It's not about working more. You have to have a good work-home life balance. You got carriers out there that are working 16, 18, 19 hours a day. And yes, they are filing grievances on that. I have been discussing that with them. But you have carriers out there that are running 2 routes a day. You have RCAs, 2 RCAs running Don Maston's route every day, but how many hours do you have to work to cover your expenses? And then, guess what? You miss your kid's concert, you miss your kid's baseball game, football game, you miss your kid's prom, you miss all the important events in your family. For what? More money that barely covers the bills that you have? And then turn around, your kids aren't going to remember how many hours you worked for them. They're going to remember how many things you missed that were important to them.
Mhm.
They're going to remember how you weren't there when they were sick because you were too busy working 12 to 14 hours a day at the post office. When is enough enough? Our carriers need better pay, not more hours, better pay. That's it.
And
that's
what are the carriers that are 60 and 70 hours? They got more than enough hours,
Oh yeah,
and
they're
not
working
getting
way
any.
too much.
And they're not getting any extra pay.
These carriers are killing themselves out
and that
there.
relates to the city side's TA with the letting carriers work over the 1260.
The 12 to 60. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And get 2.5 times pay. I don't want 2.5 times pay. I want to go home.
Yeah.
I want to go home comfortably.
And with this MOU that has been renewed so many times over the last few years, and that you hear about, well, carriers want it because they want to work that over. It's not just because they want it, it's because they need it. Those carriers that say sign this is because they need it to survive.
Yeah.
And, if I was living on my own, I wouldn't need it.
Mm-hmm.
It's luckily I'm, the 2-income household, but still, I mean, it's, especially, and in some areas, even with a 2-income household, but especially some of these single-income households where you don't have a choice but to work 6-7 days a week and work as much as you absolutely can just to be able to pay for the roof over your head, or the vehicle that gets you back and forth to work, or the vehicle that allows you to work because that's your POV, or to make fixes on it. And when you have a POV, or to make sure that your kids have what they need. And then in return, you're missing out on your kids' stuff that you should be there supporting them for. I mean, I've been there. I have been there.
Especially single parents.
Ruby behind me can confirm that I have been there with how many times I've had to miss cheerleading competitions and all that stuff because I was working. She knows. Or my youngest daughter, how many times, I would love to go to all her soccer games. I was happy if if I could get to one in a season. I did what I had to do to make her Christmas band concert. I would rather have rolled that one day of annual leave I had over for next year. But, for me, it was more important to be there for her than it was to roll that annual leave day over.
Especially single parents with multiple children, they have it just as bad. I mean, it's terrible out here. I feel bad for a lot of carriers out there that are being forced even to work all kinds of hours. That one carrier I was talking to, he's working 6 days a week. I mean, one week he got 93 hours as a regular carrier. How can anybody justify working somebody that hard that long? It is unfathomable how we are treated today, especially given the MOU, given all the crap that we get tossed on us. It's time for us to step up, stand up, and fight for what's ours.
Absolutely. We are going to wind this down for tonight. And
Or Bill gets wound up anymore.
right, yeah, I know.
You don't, Kristen, James, and everybody listening. You don't know. You don't know how much this wrenches my heart when I'm hearing from people across the country, from my own office, and I'm, you got the PODs. You have a a benchmark for PDIs or INIs, whatever you want to call them. That management are issued, and they're being threatened with their jobs. And it's like, how can you run a business? And we are a business. Ladies and gentlemen, you may say, oh, we're a service. And all. We are a business. We have to generate income to pay the carriers, to pay the bills. And how do you run this type of business model and expect people to give it their all, to really care? I mean, a lot of carriers are here because it's a way to make a living. They're not happy about it. If any of you listening, would have been in my office 26 years ago when I first stepped into this job, and I said, "Oh my God, this is the easiest job I've ever had," and for almost 5 years, it was a great job. And then they started micromanaging, and everything that goes on nowadays, it's just another nail in the coffin. And we've lost carriers in this last year because of the situations at work, the tension, the hostile work environment, the berating, the constant needling that we get from management. I got to move faster. You got to get out of here by 10:30. You got to, God bless you all. I knew I had reached my end when we went up to the SDNC, and after 2 months there, I knew that I couldn't tolerate that work situation anymore and not end up in prison. That's how bad it got, because I don't take to that well, and I do lash out. But the fact of the matter is, I'm wise enough in my years that I was able to step away. But you all can't, and that just tears at my very heart. God bless you all.
Yeah, it does. I have seen a lot of carriers that have just decided to resign, both and not just leave replacements, but regulars or regulars that are stepping into management in other offices because after so many years, their body just can't physically take the job anymore, because it's a hell of a lot different than when I started 10 years ago. I started before Amazon. I know what it was like prior to Amazon. I had a ton of mail, and now it's the opposite. Yeah, we have our heavier days here and there, but in general, my average day of mail is nothing what it was like when I first started. Packages, on the other hand, well, that's, tenfold. I mean, I look at our one POV route, and when I transferred in my office and then I moved to that route as a sub, if you had 70, I remember the first time I broke 100 scans on that route that day, 100 parcels. And I was like, oh my God, 100 parcels. This was a heavy, heavy day. This 44K POV route now, with only 500 active boxes, on a daily for the last month and a half, 2 months, has been getting more than what I have on my 46K 800 box route. And when they are running second trips nearly on the daily, or having to have the aux carrier take out half of the route's parcels because they couldn't fit them in. In fact, one day they had 2 subs take parcels out because there was over 70 parcels for the front half of the route that had to be left behind that couldn't have been fit into the POV. I mean, it's completely different than what it was, like I said, even when I started 10 years ago. And yeah, it's crazy. And I can totally see where, it's not going to be easy on the body when we're humping gaming chairs and multiple mattresses and oversized things on a daily, nearly. That's not easy on anybody for sure. I know the last thing I want to do when I get home is any heavy lifting. I'm like, yeah, I've already done that for today. I'm good. So no, I mean, I understand where some of them are coming from, and then you top it off with the micromanagement and the benchmarking and everything else. It's just it's an overload for many people. It really is.
Yep, we can't deal with everything that's going on top of the micromanagement, on top of the heavy workload that we're getting, on top of the lack of available leave replacements. I mean, there's some offices that can't even get the routes covered because they can't get anybody hired in to actually work full regular routes. When does it stop?
Or the not forcing RCAs to have a POV. I mean, remember that when I started, of course, when I first started, 9 out of 12 routes were POV routes. So you absolutely had one. I mean, in my office, we have one POV route. Everything else is LLVs. But to even run Christmas parcels, you have RCAs out there that have more compact cars that they wouldn't barely be able to get one box or 5, let alone, parcel runs. And so now, what do? They're sitting at home when they could be helping because they don't have a vehicle, but, let's not force them to have a vehicle that they could even deliver parcels out of properly yeah, I mean, it's completely different than what it used to be. It definitely is.
Yeah, I mean, when I hired on to my office, as an RCA, looking at what we would have had to done and what we had to deal with, there was no way I would have had a POV at the time. There was no way I'd be able to have a POV. Now I'm lucky that I'm able to have nice vehicles and things like that, but there are carriers out there, RCAs. I had a friend I talked to that had an RCA that had made $11,000 in a year and spent $12,000 in repairs on their car in that year. And that was including their EMA. They got $11,000. And they spent $12,000 on their car. How is it that you spend more money repairing a vehicle? And mind you, it wasn't a brand new vehicle. And you make less money than what you spent to repair the vehicle you're delivering with.
Mm-hmm.
And so that sub actually quit and walked off the job. They're done.
I see a lot of things where, I mean, and if you look at any of the job descriptions, when an RCA goes to apply, it specifically says must have a vehicle that you'd be able to deliver mail out of. I don't have the exact wording in there, but that's the gist of it. And, even if you're in an all-government office, RCAs are still supposed to be required to have a vehicle. A lot of times it is not upheld. But that could be for parcel delivery. That could also be if they send you to another office that doesn't have government vehicles and is an all POV route office, or send you to an office to cover a POV route. That was the whole point of having, all RCAs having a POV available. And that's gone to the wayside. I mean, I didn't get rid of my POV until my route actually went up for bid.
Mm-hmm. And
the route that I got.
Yeah, I delivered in my Tahoe for parcel delivery. So, yeah. I mean, technically I had a POV for mail delivery. It just wasn't right-hand drive and wasn't capable of delivering out the right side of the vehicle without modification. But if I had to, I could have probably made the modification and right-hand drove it.
I did what I had to do. I mean, when I first started, in the 8 years that I, had to have a POV, I went through, 5 or 6 vehicles. I mean, when I first started, I was using my ex's 02 Ford Explorer Sport 2-door. And I sat in the passenger seat and swung my leg over. Luckily, the console was not in the way. for me to swing my leg over and drive that way. Same thing with my 99 Blazer that I had. My best POV was a 93 Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra bench seat. I had that sucker for almost 5 years before the timing went out. And then I had my 03 Buick LeSabre till I had a bad rod knock. I kept that until I've, been on the route I'm on now with the government vehicle. But at the same time, I've had to use what I've had to use in the past. I mean, I've borrowed from my old regular. I had borrowed a minivan from them in the past when something was down. I straddled in an 02 Malibu. I straddled in my 2018 Jeep Compass. I made it work. Heck, I used the boyfriend's full-size Chevy Silverado a couple times. And I felt bad for those that were on the side of the road on a lower mailbox when I had to put it in park and lean out, if they probably got a nice view of my behind as I'm leaning out towards the mailbox. But, I did what I had to do to work. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I guess times are different now.
And it's getting harder to find a reliable route vehicle, too, these days.
Yes, it is.
You have one manufacturer in the United States that you can get right-hand drive from.
And good luck being able to afford one of those, especially as an RCA.
Yeah, you're looking at the base price for a right-hand drive in the United States is $65,000 for brand new.
I've seen them around $49,000.
Yeah.
But, even a good used one, you're still looking at well over $10,000 to $20,000.
There are some listed newer ones for $35,000 listed now.
Yeah. But, it's especially if you're, I still wonder to this day how people have delivered out of a stick shift. I asked an old regular that, and he had a Ford Escort he had delivered out of back in the day when it was all mail. I said, how the heck did you deliver out of with a stick shift? He goes, just leave it in second gear. Okay.
Hey, if it works, it works.
Yeah, you do what you have to do. I mean, I did it. I guess, I was kind of joking with people in my office on that Friday the 13th there, because that was my 10-year anniversary with the post office. And I was like, this is the most abusive employer I ever had, but it's the longest job I've consecutively had. I guess I'm just a glutton for punishment. But I enjoy what I do. I let whatever management wants to dole out, I literally let that roll off my shoulders when I walk out the door to head to the route.
Mm-hmm.
And once I'm out on that route, it's my main focus is my customers and getting that mail and parcels delivered. When I get back, management's usually in a different mood by then. I put my stuff away, I clock out, hang my stuff up, and say, see you tomorrow. So, it's sometimes that's what you have to do. You just have to, whatever you deal with in the office, you just have to let it roll off your shoulders, leave it in the office when you head out to that route. And just focus on what you have to do out on that route.
And when you go home, too.
Yeah. As much as you can. Some of us.
Yeah.
But, okay. Well, let's wind this down, because we totally thought we were going to do that about 20 minutes ago. So.
Well, we were basically winding it down. We got very passionate there for a bit, so now we were winding down the passion before we close out.
Exactly. We've covered quite a bit tonight, though. The PODs, a little bit on the last YouTube video, covered safety, we've covered RCAs and POVs, we've gone over the MOU, things that we'd want to see, not want to see. Just, it's been quite a bit tonight, guys. But, most importantly, we've got 2 days left to Christmas Day. Let's be the best Santas we can for the next 2 days. And make sure, our customers have a great Christmas. And I want everybody else out there to have an awesome Christmas with your families. And, unfortunately, the next day, many of us do have to go back to work. But we have that one day to enjoy with our families, and let's not let work bother us one bit on Wednesday. James, go ahead.
Well, we talked about a lot of stuff here, and the biggest thing I can say is we get that from the social media. We get that from people messaging us. Some of the stuff comes across on my page for running for president. Some of it comes across the podcast page. Some of it comes across the groups that we're in. But the biggest thing is we want information from you. What do you want to hear from us? What do you want to see discussed between the presenters here? Because it's all about the craft. We're here for you guys. When we talk about our closings that we do on this and the statements that we make, we believe in those statements. We believe 100% that this craft are the most important people to us here on this podcast and outside of it. Because the only people looking out for us are our brothers and sisters of the craft and ourselves. And the only thing that's worse than an uninformed carrier is an informed minority controlling the uninformed majority. When I sit here and I say we're all in this together, I mean that, because when it comes to this craft, we have to be all in this together. Bill?
Well, as I said earlier, it does wrench my heart to hear all that's going on in this day and age with the post office, especially out of my office. I hear it every day. But it's not just Westchester. It's North Carolina, it's Georgia, it's Alabama, South Carolina, Iowa, Kansas. It's across the entire country. And it's remarkable that this is not in the forefront of management's mind in regards to enhancing, bettering the relationship with their workforce. And I'm just confounded and confused in regards to what is their end goal in regards to, these PODs or, having benchmarking for PDIs, a week. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. And it baffles the hell out of me. And God bless you all putting up with it, tolerating it. Like I said, I reached my limit and I had to get out of there. And thankfully, I was in a position to do so. I've been in that position for years, but it finally got to the point with the political mail and everything else at my SDNC. And I just said, it's okay, it's time to walk away, and made that decision in a matter of 2-3 weeks and executed it, flawlessly. But I pray for everybody's safety. Like I said, with the weather that we have coming in, the cold, the icy roads, the snow, and everything else, all of you, get the job done efficiently, safely, okay? Because, as I say, you are the most important delivery of the day. Get home to your loved ones. It's not about what's under the Christmas tree. It's about the people around that tree with you. That's the gift of Christmas. So treasure your loved ones, your friends, your neighbors, your customers, and just take a day, a moment off from all the BS that encompasses your careers right now, and enjoy the people that you're with. That's the best time, is when you're not thinking of the job and you're looking at the grandchildren running around, or a niece or nephew, all excited about it, a new toy or clothing, whatever. Enjoy the holiday. It's a brief respite in the middle of this storm. But as always, and like James says, we'll get through this, and you will. You'll persevere, because that's the type of people rural carriers are. For the most part, we don't quit. We don't back down, and we provide an essential service for this country. And, God bless you all. Have a very Merry Christmas and be safe. We love you all. Kristen?
Thank you, guys. I think I kind of said what I had to say prior to you guys, but yeah, we got 2 more days. We've got Christmas coming up. Cherish the day that you have with your loved ones for sure. Spend that day, enjoy it. Don't think about work. I know I'm going to try not to, but it happens. And, just you take care, be safe out there. I know we've got more snow and stuff coming in tonight and tomorrow. It's going to be another fun Monday for me tomorrow. But, everybody, you take care, you stay safe, and most of all, enjoy the Christmas holiday with your families. And on that note, we should be back next week. And yep, James is nodding his head. Yes, we'll be there. Ruby's waving bye to everybody. So if you're watching the video, she's kind of been sitting here with me. But everybody take care. Have a very, very Merry Christmas. And we'll be back next Sunday night.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, y'all.
Yep. Merry Christmas.